Boys, a lot of the major questions you're gonna have about EU5 have been answered in today's dev diary. We get so much information starting from diplomats, rivals, how favors are gonna work, how opinions are gonna be, and so on. So pay close attention. This is a pretty sizable dev diary, but I'm gonna sum it up. I'm not gonna read everything, obviously, just let you guys know the important stuff here. First off, the way that diplomacy is gonna work in EU5 is basically the same like in EU4, with one major addition that is actually taken from EU3. The magistrate system that we had in EU3 has been implemented in EU5 in essence, but it's been recalled. It's now a diplomat system. You will be able to interact with the interface of other countries basically like you do in EU4. However, to do certain actions, you will need that diplomat. What are diplomats? In essence, they're the diplomatic corps, as they're called, or just diplomats. They represent how much diplomacy a country has, and this diplomacy slowly builds up over time, and there's a cap that you have for diplomacy. So for example, here we see the cap for this particular country is 4 diplomats maximum, and the amount of diplomats you get every month is based on a few other different modifiers. See here, your aristocracy gives you 0.2 diplomats, base value is 0.1. So once you reach the cap of 4 diplomats, you don't get more than that in essence, right? But you want to be using up your diplomats continuously because you're gonna need them to improve relations, to do certain interactions with other nations. We'll go into that into more detail in a few seconds. Now we see here that you have the base value for diplomats plus 3, so the minimum diplomats you're gonna have up to 3, but if you're a kingdom or an empire, you get that increased. There's likely going to be a lot of other ways to increase the cap for diplomats, of course. Johan mentions here that some advances, laws, or societal values will increase this amount, and there are also some buildings that will have an impact. That's cool. I didn't expect that. Having buildings increase the diplomats, that's pretty nice actually. Now you can tell from the monthly progress here that spy networks, annexing countries, and opinion improvements have a plus 0.00. That means that this is going to be a reduction most likely. So whenever you are building a spy network, you lose monthly diplomats. I don't know how much it's going to be, maybe minus 0.1 diplomats gained from building a spy network. Similarly, you're going to lose diplomats from annexing countries every month because you don't have mana points. So in order to annex your subjects now, you're going to need some sort of thing, and that's the diplomatic corps that will basically behave like the diplomatic mana that we have in EU4, where you lose a certain amount of diplomats every month when you're annexing countries. Same goes, opinion improving will lose diplomats, so be careful if you really want to improve with that nation because it will be expensive. It will cost diplomat. Considering that it's on par with annexing countries, it's a pretty big deal improving opinion of other nations, in my opinion. When it comes to opinions, you have the exact copy-pasted system from EU4. You can have between minus 200 and plus 200 opinion of another nation, and there's also the system where country A has opinion of country B has a different opinion of country A. So even if Russia likes Prussia, Prussia might not like Russia back. Exactly same system like it is in EU4 in essence. Now the opinion is calculated also based on religion, culture, diplomacy, etc, etc. There are temporary actions that will impact the relations between nations, and with your diplomats you can do a few things. You could, for example, improve relations, which is the opinion improvement here. I'm gonna slowly be taking up diplomats every month, and there's also the ability to send gifts, which is a lump sum of money, exactly the same like it is in EU4. I don't know if it also gives you 25 relations or it gives you less or more, but it's identical copy paste to EU4 in essence. We see here the Neapolitan opinion of the Crown of Aragon interaction. So the opinion is minus 29.5 because it's a different culture, different court, language. So this is something we have from CK3 in essence, where the language spoken in the court could potentially be different from your culture. I don't know, maybe you got a ruling dynasty that's Normans, but your culture is Anglo-Saxon. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying here? Well, we're a little bit late for that, but you get my point. Then apparently being the same religion gives 40 relations, which is huge, but this kind of negates the different culture, court, language bit, which is a pretty big impact. So it kind of makes sense to get a bigger boost of opinion from being the same religion, in my opinion. And then recent conflict lost -40. That's why it's -29 right now. And this, of course, by default, you lose yearly 3 of this relation. So it goes back to essentially 0. It goes up or down towards 0, depending on what kind of temporary opinion boost you might have. The trust and the favor system are both identical to how it is in EU4 right now. You gain trust by sending a diplomat to profess trust, but you lose diplomatic reputation. It will be lowered for the next 5 years. I don't know why you lose diplo reputation from increasing your trust. I guess it kind of makes sense, because like if you profess your allegiance to a nation, maybe other nations are going to be upset about it. I guess that's the logic behind it. Favors you gain by helping your allies or supporting them at need. You can also curry favors, so completely copy pasted from EU4. It's even called the same thing. We see here the base value is 0.5 whenever you curry favors, and you will need a diplomat to curry favors every month. So again, this will likely be lowering your diplomat's gain every month from currying favors, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, see, it says here you will reduce the monthly diplomats you gain each month, but at the same time you grant favors with the target country and they get favors on you. Also, you will be able to ask certain things of your country that you have favors with to do. I'm assuming you'll be able to ask them to come into war with you and so on. So the same like in EU4. If favors get too unbalanced, refusing to do these things can cause a lot of a loss of trust and even diplo reputation. Okay, so I'm glad to see that there's actually some sort of negative thing from not accepting favors, right? From not accepting doing something in exchange for favors, basically. I also like to see that the culture that you have versus the culture of the nation you're currying with will have an impact. So I'm assuming if it's similar cultures or cultures that are accepted, maybe you will gain a boost to the amount of favors that you carry compared to cultures that you maybe don't accept or you're enemies with or something of the sort. This is where it gets a little bit interesting to me. Spy network shows the extent to which a country has infiltrated another with the network of informants, double agents, and general turncoats. So we already know that you'll be able to send your cabinet members or diplomats, but yet not necessarily cabinet members, to infiltrate another nation, right? But I didn't know about this general turncoat. So does that mean you'll be able to make generals that are working for another country become loyal to you and as such use them as double agent? That would be cool. That would be cool to see. Maybe even get their armies if you manage to make them loyal to your side. This will allow you to get more inside knowledge into that country. So I'm kind of guessing that in EU5 you're not going to have all the information on the enemy nation that you do in EU4. You're not going to know the amount of soldiers they have. You're not going to know a lot of things unless you have a spy network with a decent amount of information going in that spy network. That actually makes sense, and I like to see that because it kind of is a little bit weird in EU4 how you know everything about every nation. You just have to click on it, right? It's not really realistic because historically that's not what happened. Johan mentions you need to use a diplomat to start building a spy network, and whilst it is active, you will gain less diplomats each month. The speed with which your spy network is built up depends on your spy network construction capacity, and the target country's counter-espionage reduces it. So we do have confirmation that we have counter-espionage as well as a thing. The size of your spy network in a country impacts your siege ability and how much aggressive expansion you get from them treating them. Okay, so that's that's literally what happens in E4. The aggressive expansion and the siege ability is the thing you get in E4 from spy network. Copy pasted. I like it. Don't get me wrong, I like it, but I wish there was something more than just that. Some other things influencing. Because right now what I'm seeing is EU4 with the better engine and better graphics, which is nothing wrong with that, right? We see the active spy network in the Kingdom of Portugal. So it changes by 1.04 each month. The base value is 1, and then spy network construction -29, Portuguese counter-espionage +33, as well as the culture. Again, it influences stuff. Okay, interesting. Culture plays a major factor in EU5 apparently, and all sorts of things. Diplomatic reputation. Now, this represents how highly regarded a country is in international relations. There are advances that will be able to increase this, but it's also increased by your country's prestige and decreased by your aggressive expansion. Now, this is new. I like that. High aggressive expansion means you lose diplo reputation. That is a great feature. I wish I could see that in EU4 as well. That is a really good feature there. AI countries look very much at diplo reputation when it comes to accepting diplomatic offers. Ooh, okay. So diplo reputation for Aragon is 4.25. Prestige gives 1.01. Nobles of primary and accepted culture ratio. Okay. Base value for a country is 3, so you start with 3 diplo reputation from day 1. Belligerent -0.5. Clergy estate satisfaction 0.57. I'm guessing the clergy cap is going to be around 1 or something like that. that. Diplomatic range, as Johan says, is a concept introduced in Imperator, where you can't do diplomacy with every country on the map like you can in EU4. Instead, you have a diplomatic range. So if they are within range, you can do diplomacy. If they're outside the range, you got to get provinces closer to that nation in order to start diplo relations with them. This is a good feature actually, because historically, obviously, you wouldn't have the English having diplomatic relations with the Indians up until much later, when, you know, the British decided they want to conquer India. They had diplo relations before they decided to conquer India, but you get my point. As Johan says, diplomatic range limits the physical distance our diplomats can travel to conduct diplomacy. The distance to be traveled is from one capital to another. So the distance calculated is from one capital to another, basically. We have here Aragon cannot send their diplomats too high outside of their diplo range. So with increase in advances in technology, as the ages pass, your diplomatic range will likely increase more and more to where by the mid game, I would assume you will be able to have diplomatic range with pretty much the entirety of the planet. And I also am seeing a few changes on the map from the previous Dev Diary, where we saw a full map of the European continent. I love that every time they leak a new map of Europe with a different map mode, you can still kind of see the diplo map mode and see some of the changes that have been done on the diplo map mode. I love that. That's so cool. We have a system similar to the one in EU4 of rivalries. There are some differences though. A valid rival is someone within a geographical area that is of somewhat similar or higher rank and shares a culture group. Better yet. Okay, that kind of got me worried. You can only rival people of your culture group. That would have been weird. The geographical area of an empire is the same continent or adjacent subcontinent, whilst for a country it's the same area or different province definition. Right, okay, so you cannot pick just anyone on the map. You cannot just go, oh, I'm picking the Mamluks as my rivals as Aragon. That's not going to be possible. Interesting. If you don't pick enough rivals, your actions that increase aggressive expansion will give you more and your spy network becomes weaker. So you get more aggressive expansion from not having enough rivals. What if you don't have any possible rival nations? What do you do then? You can always create a casus belli on your rivals if you have a spy network built in there. That's good to see. There's no cooldown on replacing a rival, but it will cost you 25 stability. Holy shit, that's a lot. Remember that a rival is a country that is perceived as having conflicting interests and will block you from having alliances. Any country that shares rivals will have higher opinion with each other. Okay, so that's basically the same like in EU4. I do like this idea though. I like the idea that a rival is somebody close to you, maybe within the same region, within the same area where you have conflicting interests. That is really cool to see. But I hope there's a little bit of an addendum here where if you don't have any possible rival options, then the aggressive expansion increase does not apply because you just don't have any possible rival options, right? I hope that is a thing. I hope so. Let's see. Or maybe you're always going to have a rival option no matter how big you are. So then say if you have all of Iberia, you can have France and whoever is in North Africa as possible rivals regardless of their size. That would be nice, right? That would make sense. And that would fix any sort of issue that would come from not having rivals available. Now we're talking about diplomatic capacity. This is a big one. It's actually one of the more important things and one of the things that will influence how you play out your game in EU5 big time. Johan says, as suggested by many of you in Tinto Talk 12, we changed the diplomatic relations slot system to become a diplomatic capacity system instead, where the cost in an alliance depends on the power of the ally, and similarly subjects cost different things depending on their size and type. We see here the diplomatic capacity of Aragon. Aragon uses 1.68 out of 3.12 diplomatic capacity because Majorca is a vassal and it takes up diplomatic capacity. The base value for this is 1. The fact that you're a kingdom gives you another 2, and then we have a few other things that influence that, including diplomatic relations. So that's a thing, a separate thing that can influence your capacity for diplomacy. I really hope that you will be able to get more diplomatic capacity from buildings or from advances, but also building. Now we also have the diplomatic actions and treaties. A treaty is something that lasts over a set period of time. It can be anything from an alliance to food access for your army. So alliances are of course not permanent. They have an expiry date. We see here friendly actions that you have. These include defensive league. This is of course copy pasted from Imperator. It is basically a defensive alliance. If you get attacked, then all of the nations that are in that defensive league will help you. If you attack someone, then they will not help you, obviously. You also have guarantees, proclaim guarantee as it is in EU4. Propose a ruler. Basically, you can propose one of your dynasty members to become another country's ruler if they have a region agency, and whether they accept or not is going to depend on obviously relations, I would assume, or something of the sorts. This is nice. So basically this is like putting your heir on the throne of another, or putting a family member of yours on the throne of another country, basically. Share maps is also friendly interaction, self-explanatory. We have anti-piracy agreement. This will prevent Portugal from running privateers in your waters. 50 favors. Okay, that does make sense. All right. So 50 favors, you can get any country to not send privateers near you. Okay. And then hostile actions, we have intervene in war, join on the side of the defenders, if you've got the relations, of course. Isolate from allies. This is new. This will make them break an alliance they have, but it will cost you a fair amount of favors. I guess that's not new. It's just break alliance from EU4. Send insult, reduces their opinion of you. Self-explanatory. Threaten war. If you have a casus belli for a province, you can use this to threaten a war. They have a chance of accepting it. Only kingdoms and empires can do this, though. Covert actions we've got as well, including corrupt officials, infiltrate administration, steal maps, and support rebels. I'm not even going to go into that. Obviously, it's the same like in EU4. Economic actions, block building in country. I like this. So this will prevent them from building buildings in your locations. So if you're playing, say, as Brandenburg, and you don't want the Hanseatic League to build stuff in your locations, you can do this interaction. It's an economic action, and they will not be able to build in your provinces, your location. Embargo nation will reduce the market attraction of their markets on your location, making them more likely to trade in other markets. Their trades will no longer be allowed to enter your territory. Ooh, so they have to reroute around your lands, as their trade routes will not be able to literally walk through your lands. Request a loan. You can do this for banking countries where you can get money for them. I'm actually curious what kind of interest rates you're going to get from banking countries. Is that something you can negotiate? Is it going to be something a little bit more flexible? I would like it so that, you know, depending on the relations you have with the banking nation, you can get better interest rates, right? That would be a cool feature. And then you have access actions. You've got military access, fleet basing rights, and food access. Food access is the new one, right? This allows your armies to supply in that country's territory. The other two, I'm not explaining because you know already what they mean, but food access allows when you're passing with your soldiers through another country's lands to grab food from their provinces. Remember that provinces stockpile food now. So you can take that food and send it off, use it for your army, or fill up your army's food reserves, because armies will have food reserves, right, from another country. That's pretty OP in my opinion. I feel like this should be punished. I feel like it should be really difficult to convince a nation to allow you to give them food access. You should be giving them a lot of money for them to give you food access, in my opinion. Johan also mentions there's a lot of country-specific diplomatic actions they will be talking about later after Christmas, apparently. And next week, something completely different. I wonder what that is. Old Sealand asks, when a diplomat is in a country, will that diplomat be able to do more than one action, or is he restricted to one action? And, let me rearrange that. Johan says that they can do only one action when they are in another country. That's kind of, I don't know. I wish they could do multiple actions too, actually. It would make sense, right? Because if a diplomat is in that country, why is he restricted to one action? And I know why. Because of the way the engine works. And it's going to be really difficult to make it different, right? But I wish it was an option. I wish it was an option, personally. There is a by-territory diplomatic option. This is amazing. So, hear me out, right? Get ridiculously rich by territory. No need to conquer. I think I figured out the meta for EU5. You get filthy rich as a banking nation, and then you buy all of Italy. That's it. That buying Italy video, it's coming, boys. It's actually coming. I'm telling you now. We see here the diplomatic capacity of Aragon, right? So, oh god. So, 3 alliances, 1 vassal puts you 3 over the diplomatic capacity, and the being 3 over the diplomatic capacity increases aggressive expansion impact. Loyalty of subjects decreased by 100. Wait a second. 100 decrease in loyalty from 3 over. Oh my god, dude. Diplo reputation -6. Dude, what the shit, man? It basically means you're restricted to having 1 ally or 1 vassal. You gotta choose one or the other. What? Bro, this is too punishing. I really feel like this should be increased. This is pretty Pepe God. But I see 50 people love this. So I guess you guys like this. this. I don't. I feel like you should have a little bit more of diplomatic capacity from day one, like at least 3 base diplomatic capacity, in my opinion. Because imagine this, right? As Aragon, you're a kingdom, so you get +2. If you're playing as a shitty OPM, one location nation, you're gonna have 1 base diplomatic capacity, and that's it. And with 1, you cannot even get an alliance, man. You're gonna have no chance of doing anything. Come on. Okay, I take everything I said back. Apparently, you can increase your diplomatic capacity by spending money. That makes sense. Okay, no, that's fine. Then this makes 100% sense, having 3 or having 1 base capacity, as long as you have the ability to increase that by spending money. That's fair. That's actually 100% fair. I like that. I hope you guys enjoyed this short video. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.